the question about playing soccer at a young age. Now, your dad played for NYU, your sister played for Northwestern. Don't ask me how I know that. But anyways,
Okay.
I did I did the research.
You
But
did a good
anyways,
research.
anyways, with that going on, did you feel like you had that kind of pressure to live up to that kind of talent level that, playing at those type of schools?
I'd probably say so. I mean, I was the kid I went to a Catholic school growing up,
Right.
and I was the girl in the Catholic school dress that had dirt all over her at 1 o'clock. Probably no shock to anybody. I was playing with the boys, flag football, all these things. Like I was the epitome of a tomboy. So I always loved sports, and I'd go shoot hoops like a loner in my backyard after school when I was like in 5th grade, right? Like who does that but me? So I've always had a deep passion for it. I will say I never was like, my father very much did live through my experience, but I was never like forced to a practice, right? Like it was always within my choice. And to be honest with you, I kind of, between 7th and 9th grade, I grew 5 inches. So I was really mightily struggling through Osgood-Slaughters. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's kind of when like your muscles don't catch up to your bones. And I was like the clumsiest. It actually makes me laugh because if you know who Morgan Andrews is, Morgan Andrews in 7th grade, she was like the phenom of our class, kind of with Joe, but like really known in our youth. And I just remember looking at her being like, how is she just so strong? Like I was just so clumsy because I hadn't grown into my body, whatever. And then it just kind of, I just kept at it. And in high school, I started to kind of find my confidence. And I always tell Joe this, I wish more than anything, I had better self-talk younger. I had such negative talk when I was a kid. And yes, it made me push harder, but it's so important. I think we're learning that through our interviews too. Like you just got to keep positive. You got to keep telling yourself you can do it. And I just think that's so important early on because it just gets harder, right? The expectations get harder, the trainings get harder. And, I can't even imagine. I mean, Joe was somebody who had even more pressure than I did as a youth player. Every single camp, you have anxiety. You're like, am I going to get the email? Am I not? And I hate to say this, and I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a bit much on this, but it's like, it's a small circle, right? So it's like, if I don't make this camp, I know everybody knows. And it's that feeling too.
It's the feeling of walking up to the Disney showcase and everybody's talking about how you maybe possibly didn't get called into the next camp.
Yep. It's just the worst. And it's a small circle.
So my journey's pretty crazy. My cousin played soccer at Clemson. And so when I was little, I just followed her around everywhere. She's 15 years older than me. She ended up coaching at Clemson, coaching at Alabama, coached at Charleston Southern. So when I was little, I would just follow her all the way around. And for me, I just loved sports. I literally loved every single sport. I was also the kid that, I could not go inside the house until I've made 10 free throws outside of my house in the front yard. I from a young age, really, really fell in love with soccer. And I kind of joke, but I kind of have a crazy gene. And that's why I've run my body into the ground, is that I just didn't know when to stop training. I was constantly out in the front yard, constantly, whipping in free kicks, constantly doing everything that I could to get better. And for me, my journey is a little bit different. I committed pretty young. Anson actually didn't know how young I was when I committed. I played up, and then he also thought he thought I was actually 2 years older. So he thought I was a sophomore when I was in 8th grade. So I ended up actually graduating high school in 3 years to go early to North Carolina, which is not the norm. But I would 100% do it all over again. It's been a crazy journey, that's for sure. From North Carolina to the pros to now being a wash-up, now being a college coach. It's something that I love. I literally love soccer. Me and my head coach talk about it all the time. He makes fun of me because I just walk around the office saying I love soccer.
So Tina, you just brought this up about Joe, but I've listened to the podcast and it's been a topic in quite a few. And Joe, you seem like that happy-go-lucky, great coach that I would want to play for, that I'm sure a lot of your girls love playing for, because you go in and I think it was the last podcast, you said you go in and ask the girls, how are you today? You ask about the relationships. You ask about, boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it is, issues as far as that goes, school. And that's what, like you said, Tina, that's what, athletes need. And there's not a lot of coaches that really do that. They're just worried about their job. They're worried about you producing on the field. I think, listening to the Anson interview, I got a lot of that from him. So did you learn a lot of that from, was it a family trait, or was it, playing for Anson, or is it just something that you got off yourself? What?
I actually think that's a great question. I've never actually been asked that. So that's what I like that question a lot.
I appreciate it.
For me, I'm somebody that as a player, I would play best when I had a relationship with the coach. And so in a relationship is just an open, where I felt comfortable to talk about anything with them. And Anson, as you can probably get from that podcast, is I would just go in his office because he's the smartest man that I've ever met. And literally we would talk about books. We would talk about, my husband went to West Point. We talked about the Army. We talked about anything, I would just pick his brain. And so when I felt comfortable and he cared about, me as a human being, and, going back to my club coach, he's now the associate head coach at UNC, but Damon Nahas, building that relationship outside of the field and understanding that this person cares more about me as a human being than they do as a soccer player. And that's something that Anson honed in from the moment we stepped on campus, is that he cares about our individual growth as human beings far more than he cares about us as soccer players. Obviously, he wants us to do great as soccer players, but his main job is to make us great people. And, I think you learn, and I'm a young coach, and I try to learn from everybody that I've, experienced interactions with, negative, positive, what I looked to and wanted as a player. And I think anybody does, my head coach now, Jay, and like, we laugh that when you're happy, you play your best. It's like a running joke on the team. He tells everybody, are you happy? Okay, then you're going to play better than when you're sad. And so it's creating that culture of happiness and being happy and finding positives in things that, are really, really negative situations. And for me, that's something that, when I was little, I wasn't great at. I was cut, I had injuries. There was a lot of times that I was not in a good place. And, looking back, I'm hoping that I can be that person for that kid that, maybe needs to just talk outside of soccer, or about soccer, or school, or whatever. I think as coaches, our job is to, like Anson said, and ingrained in us, is help you be a great human being and a great person.
Transitioning from playing at UNC to playing with the Breakers, playing with the Pride, and now coaching, has it been a big transition? Especially it's Division II is a different level than you were playing. Yeah,
it has been the greatest blessing in my entire life, and I'll say it time and time again. These girls and what Jay Intlick has created here at Columbus State is a complete powerhouse of. It is pretty crazy and pretty incredible how well we play with 4.1 scholarships. It's truly, truly remarkable of what he's built in the culture that he's built and the way that we play and the style that we play. These kids are really, really phenomenal. And I joke with them all the time. They're like, oh, we're not ACC kids. I'm like, you guys are freaking good. Like, these girls are freaking good.
Yeah.
We went up, and Anson said it on the pod, we went up to play North Carolina last year, and we had, granted, our goalkeeper had a shocker, but if, he even said it, if our goalkeepers had switched, it could have been a 2-0 game. And that team is the same team that is currently, 7th in the country right now. We went and we played Alabama and nearly beat them. We just did not finish our chances. We lost 1-0 or 2-0. We go and we play these teams, and, we're pretty darn good. And that's something that, for me was a bit of a shock, if I'm going to be completely honest, going to an ACC powerhouse, playing pro, you know, I didn't know what to expect at all. And these girls continue to shock me well, they don't shock me anymore because I know how freaking capable they are. But when I first got here, I was taken aback about how good they were. And, you know, to be a part of that is something really, really special.
But how do you kind of tread that line as a coach? I know every young coach is thinking about these issues of you want to be their friend, but you don't, and you want to be their mentor, and you got to have that kind of that line to make sure you're not crossing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how do you kind of play with that line and make sure you're on the line?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, especially since how, you know, some of these girls, the 5th-year COVID players I would have played with. So I think for me as a coach, and I think it kind of goes back to understanding the power, I don't want to use that power, but the authority that you have is you can be their friend, but yet you've also got to be their mentor and their guide. And I think for me, that's really important of, yes, I care about you. I will give me, like, if you need to call me in the middle of the night, like if you, I'm here, like, cause in Columbus State, like it's me, the grad assistant, our head coach. It's not like we have a director of ops. We don't have, you know, people left and right. We don't have managers. We are the staff. And so for me, it's being there, but it's also, you know, holding that level of respect and holding that level of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, holding that level of just attention to detail, of that standard of who we are as soccer players, who we are as people. You know, people that know me, I'm going to say, yo, that's not cool, or this is not the way we do things, or maybe that was not the right decision there. I think it's, you know, being firm in who you are as a coach, and, you know, holding that standard on a consistent day to day every time I walk into the office.
I want to talk about your career, Tina. So playing at Virginia, obviously that's a hell of a program. We talked about 2014 a little bit, and I'd love for you to get into that in just a second. But regardless of that, playing for Steve Swanson, how was that? How did it shape you? Because you transferred there from Vandy, which, you know, as a SEC guy and watching a lot of Vandy games, is they have their up and down years. But when you got to Virginia, you know, you really crushed it in playing English. So, you know, can you talk about that? That, you know, the transfer over from Vandy and,
Sure.
you know, in as far as that goes in general.
Yeah, so I loved Vanderbilt. I committed there in sophomore year. I went in early, like in the summer, to just, I thought, you know, why not? I'll go in a month and a half early, train with their coaches. I'll be perfectly fit going into my freshman year. I, in fact, had a really rough first summer. Couldn't get fit, couldn't get my body. I kept complaining of like, I almost would say like my legs are suffocating, like I can't move. And my dad, who everyone knows my dad is like my #1 fan, he would come to a game and be like, you don't look right. And I'd be like, because I'm literally just trying to make it through the game. I kept complaining to my head coach at the time that something's wrong with me physically. I know my body. And it took basically me collapsing against Texas A&M at College Station for them to get me into the hospital. You know, long story short, I'd found out that I was like heavily anemic to the point of like I had to be supplemented for multiple weeks, and it was a really rough time. And I loved Vandy, but I felt like I had more I could give from a soccer perspective, and I just didn't feel comfortable anymore, honestly. I mean, nothing against that coach at the time. I just was like, I don't feel safe in a safe space where it's like, I've been telling you this for weeks, and now we want to all act like it was done right, and it wasn't. So I remember kind of putting feelers out and seeing the interest level, also convincing my parents, because Vanderbilt's a very good school and education is really important to my parents. So, and myself, but you know, it's hard to leave a school like Vandy. It really came down to like 3 ACC schools. And what I loved about Steve is when I went on my official visit, I love the girls, every single one. I had an amazing experience there, but Steve talked everything team and nothing. I don't know if I hate to say this, when I was 15, it was like red carpet. You're amazing. You're this, you're great. Here's this and that and da, da, da. And when you're 15, you're like, this is sick. They think I'm like the best soccer player in the country. This is amazing. When you're 18 and you've been through the pits, you're like, I just want someone to tell me the truth. And he told me, he told me what he thought of my ability, but he said, nothing here goes unearned. Which you could probably tell by his track record. You got players like Danny Colaprico who barely played their freshman year, which is a crazy thought when you know what kind of player she is now. And I just knew that they had lost their whole back line. So I said, okay, I have an opportunity here and the school's great and the people are great. And from the minute I got there, totally welcomed. As she said, Morgan Stearns, I knew going in, she's my best friend in the whole world. And it was just all in all, an amazing experience. The thing I would say about Steve, I think it's very similar to Anson as well as Joe as a coach, just really cares about the person, right? Like when I call Steve these days, it's not like conversations about like, how are you? How was your day? How's life outside of soccer? Like he cares. He doesn't just like throw me away because I'm no longer a player. He wants to know how my life's doing and how I'm going. And I will say, you know, I always had that with Steve. We could always have the uncomfortable conversations. And I think that's so important, right? Because at that level, if you're at a UNC at Virginia, you're a person that holds yourself to a very, very high standard. You want honesty all the time, even if it is hard to hear, because it's the only way you get better. And so, you know, and I just want to add from before, it's like, you know, Joe's not going to say it about herself, but I also think a reason Joe's such a good coach is because she played. Steve played, Anson played. I mean, these are people that have experienced the sport at their own level. And I think for women, especially, when you've been in every aspect of it, you know exactly what you wanted and how you want to serve in that way now. Yep. And it's so important because it's important why you have other coaches, right? Why you have diversity on your staff, because not every coach can serve every role either, right? Like there's players going to Joe that are not going to that coach. And it may literally be because she's a woman. And that's important. I actually think it's so important. And but yeah, Steve was excellent. And it's kind of astonishing now to see what's going on in the NWSL, right? Because you're supposed to look at the NWSL as the next tier up, right? And then I think about the coaching environments there versus college. And it's like, it's so crazy to me because I'm like, everything Steve did was professional to the T. Like I felt like I was a professional. I felt cared for, but I never felt uncomfortable in any situation ever. And to think that these women are in an unsafe space at a professional level is just, it like eats my core up because I'm just like, that can't ever happen. It's just so not appropriate and so beneath where we should be.
Let's go into these audience questions. The first question is from John. All right. He is 17 and we appreciate him for listening because we don't get a lot of the real young guys listening. It says, Joe, what was your favorite part of living in Orlando?
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna be honest, I loved the hot weather, but I loved all of the access to golf. All the cheap golf courses down there. We trained really, really early in the morning and didn't have much to do in the afternoon when it kind of cooled off. So just threw my clubs out and would enjoy around pretty much as I possibly could. So golf, I love the golf atmosphere.
All right. This is Casey from St. Louis. She is age 20. All right. And this is for Tina. It says you played in Norway and Cyprus. How beautiful was it there? Can you talk about a little bit about your experiences there and how different the game was compared to the US game? I know that's a lot.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, from a culture standpoint, you can't beat it. It's incredible to live in another culture and, you know, with people that speak different language and have different traditions. So if anyone plays, abroad, definitely try to immerse yourself in the local culture. I think that's always great. And they're vastly different. In Northern Norway is like the cold. And then you have Cyprus, which is like a tropical island in a sense. But Cyprus, I'm from there. So it was very important for me. I was by my grandmother and all those things. Oh, wow. I'd say from a playing standpoint, it really just depends on what you're competing in. So in Cyprus, I was on a Women's Champions League team. So we had girls from all over the world, Sweden, England, some of them playing some of the biggest clubs now in the world. So we had a very high level of play. So it really just depends on the system, right? Like it's the same with anything in the US. You could be, more possession style, more stretch style. It truly depends on the coach and system. But yeah, both experiences were great, and the level of play was really, really great. The only thing that's a little bit tough, I would say, is definitely consider going with another American, because it can be isolating, right? I mean, you are in another country, so especially if it's a country that doesn't speak English and you don't know the language. So it's always nice to have a buddy.
Tina, let me ask you this, just to tap on that. Do you see a lot of these different clubs around the world catching up to the NWSL, even foreign teams in general? You know, we see Canada's really played well. They won the Olympics. Obviously, the U.S. team is, you know, like no other. There's so much talent in that pool. England's really catching up as far as that goes. But we're seeing a lot of these other small countries that, you know, really didn't have the funding. They're starting to put some money into that, and those girls are coming up too. So what is your take on that?
It's like anything, right? You need the financial investment. Partially why I didn't return to the Cypriot national team is because the federation was just unwilling to give us our bare minimums, which I thankfully has changed since, more or less because of forced, you know, control and the rules. But yeah, I think the best way to promote the game globally is to have these owners on the men's side invest on a women's side, which you're seeing in, you know, the UK and in Cyprus as an example. You cannot have a Division One, like top division men's team without having a women's team, which is a new law that they put in about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So it's grown the women's game tremendously, because now there's many more teams and it's kind of a requirement, and you don't want to lose your first level status as a men's team. So I think it's just putting in the right incentives, putting in the right money. And I mean, the Women's Champions League globally, if you can get yourself into that as a small country, is a huge tournament, and it gets a lot of turnout. So yeah, I have good hope that the more money that's invested and the more the NWSL shows that it can be a revenue earner, the better the international game will get.
Can you tell me how the hell Florida State got so damn good so quick? I mean, you guys have played Florida State many times.
My honest answer.
Yeah, it's freaking crazy, because
they were our kryptonite.
Yeah,
literally.
Florida, well, they just lost to Duke the other day. They just lost.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they were undefeated until they just lost. But it seemed like Florida had their number for so long. You know, as a SEC guy watching Florida, and, you know, and stuff. And then like maybe the past like 4 or 5 years, Becky was there. I mean, Florida just got smacked by FSU, and it wasn't just them; it was everybody. Florida State was crushing everybody, and they still are. So, tell me about this, Tina. How do we stop Florida State? What is going on there?
Well, the thing for us is like, I don't know what's worse, right? It's like, I mean, maybe you want to be smacked. I mean, every single game is like a 1-0 for us. I'm like, oh my gosh, if we lose one more time to Florida State, like our kryptonite's 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Listen, Mark Krikorian's an excellent coach. He's a technical, like, you know, I mean, literally, it's like masterminds. You feel like they're like masterminding on the side of the pitch. And I will say, from a recruiting standpoint, they're very methodical in everyone they bring in, and it's all like a puzzle, right? Like, they bring in players that are very much, if you don't fit in the system, you're not going to play, and almost everyone fits in the system. So it's like they know exactly who they want, and they go hard at them. But yeah, I think it's just it's all about, I always tell it players too. It actually brings up a good point about like fit. They're just very good at finding players that fit their system. And I think even, you know, as a tidbit, when you're getting recruited, make sure you're not just going because it's a brand, but because you fit, right? Like, I know for myself, I would have never fit at North Carolina. It just I wasn't the outside back that he recruits. That doesn't mean that I'm mad at UNC. It's just like, you got to know where you fit in what system. And yeah, so they had us for years, but you know, it was, I'll be honest, in the years that I played, they had a very strong back line, very, very strong back line. And they knew how to kind of crush you in corners and break down your possession style. And we were a team specifically that we needed to have good possession to win games. It was just kind of like how we played. So yeah, it's still a little heartbreaking, but you know, years have passed, and there were always good battles. And UNC as well. I mean, UNC we had great battles with as well. And I give Anson credit. Hell or high water, he's going to play his system. And I think that's another thing that's really cool about that is like, you see coaches that I love that about Anson. Like, he's not going to change his philosophy for nothing, even if some team is consistent for 7 years. So it's all about playing your cards and hoping you get it right here and there.
Joe, any context on Florida State before we move on?
They're tough. They're tough. They're extremely well organized.
So you got to respect them.
Yeah,
They're good.
you got to respect it. They always, I think Tina hit the nail on the head, is they have a system and they know exactly what pieces need to fit in that system, and they go get those kids. And those kids are freaking good. They're technical, they play,
and they dominate the foreign space.
Yeah,
I mean,
and they
get every
rush the foreign space. There's a lot of foreign internationals on the team, kind of at all times. I know, I'm pretty sure this past weekend when they lost and they played North Carolina on Friday, they had 4 kids on international duty. So it's a constant, they're getting international kids and they're also getting some of the best American kids. So that's tough to compete with.
I know they just picked up a girl. Well, she was playing the whole year this year. Her name was I think it's Betta Olson or something like that. She played at Florida because Becky recruited her in the spring, and she was scoring goals in that spring COVID season consistently. I think she had like 4, 5, 6 goals in just a few games that she was there. And now she's at Florida State. And she's playing quite a few minutes over there. So she got right out of Florida and went right into Florida State once Becky left. So is there any conference better? I know you guys are going to be biased than the ACC. I mean, can the SEC
let me tell you, no, the ACC is the hardest freaking conference in the country. And I tell this story all the time, is when I don't know what year it was, but I think it was 2016, they moved the ACC tournament from 8 teams to 4 teams.
Yeah.
If you made that tournament, if you made the top 4 in the ACC, you were probably top 6 in the country, because that's how strong it was. There were teams that I think from 1 to like 9 or 10 in the ACC that year were ranked in the top 25. And every single game is there is no easy game in the ACC.
I feel like it is because of who we just talked about. It's because of the Steve Johnsons. It's because of the Ansons.
It's because of the Mark Krikorians.
When you're a Wake Forest and you want to survive, when you're Wake Forest and you want to survive against UNC, you got to recruit the heck out of players and get the best of the best that you can. And so I feel like everyone funnels in the ACC because, I don't know, I think you're a natural. I mean, Joe probably feels it's like, I wanted to play the best, right? That's what you want to do when you're a great player. You want to play the best. So, unfortunately, I don't even think we have off years. I think our off years are still the best years. I'm going to be honest.
Well, I agree, because there's going to be teams, like you said, that Joe, that aren't going to make the tournament, and they're still going to make the NCAA. All right. Now, this is one of my girls that I coach. All right. So she is asking Joe this question. Again, this is a Florida girl. All right. Caroline. And she wants to know what your favorite Disney park and ride is.
Oh boy. Let's see. Oh, my favorite ride is the Hulk at Universal. I loved that one. Was fun. I'm also a big dog lover, so I love Pluto. Anything Pluto, I'm a big fan of.
Wow, Universal. That's Hulk is too tough for me. Anything for Disney? Are you a Disney girl, Tina? Or no?
Did they still have the Twin Tower, or is that what is the one like the elevator that like drops?
Oh, Tower, right.
I don't think
Tower.
But that one's fun.
Is that not? Is it? It's not in Disney? I thought that was Disney.
Oh, it is Disney.
No, it's in Disney.
Hollywood Studios.
I mean, where else do you go?
Yeah. Jeez, come on, man. Joe,
going to a random elevator?
You were in Orlando.
I know. We actually never went to Disney. Yeah, we never went. We tried to avoid it at all costs because of traffic.
I want to drink around the world. Is that you?
There was an issue with drinking around the world with the Orlando Pride team.
There was. I heard about that one. Wasn't there for that subject, I guess. That one was,
There was one really good American soccer player that was ejected from Epcot with that. We'll leave her name out of that.
Rough day on the job, I guess.
Anyways, Stacy asks your favorite music artist or music in general. For both of you guys.
Favorite
I love
artist.
country music. So I actually just saw Morgan Wallen perform live in Alabama, which was awesome. I'm a big country music gal.
Tina?
I am not as big of a country music gal, but honestly, right now, like I'm just really waiting on the Adele album.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you don't love her. I'm so excited for that album to come out.
I'm assuming that you guys don't use that music for warm up though.
Nah.
When you were playing.
No.
Okay. All right, just making sure. All right, favorite movie.
Oof.
Talladega Nights for me. If you ain't first, you're last. That's mine. I love that movie.
Fair enough.
Honestly, I don't really watch movies anymore, but something I've watched religiously, and I think it's actually a good movie, is Moana.
Yeah.
All right. Moana, Disney movie.
It's like
okay.
when I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and you just end up, I mean, you literally get it. It's like, what else do you do but get into the show with them? So Moana's been a hit for us.
I'm going to go to one of your questions. TV show that you're binging.
Ooh.
That's a good one to ask us.
Morning
Throw it
show.
on us. Ted
morning
Lasso.
show.
I'm still on Ted Lasso.
Did you see the first season or?
Yeah. I'm on the second season right now. I just haven't had time to watch
Ted Lasso second season. I saw the first season. Now, Tina, first season for a morning show, or is this 2 seasons?
No,
I saw
second
one.
season. We have actually like a poll in our house of, I live with my cousin. She's an entertainment lawyer. So she's like super,
Oh.
like she like deals with the actors and actresses that are in these
Oh,
things.
wow.
But
Good for her.
so we have like we have like 4 shows that we're watching right now that we like try to keep up with throughout the week, that we watch like 1 episode a night of. So right now the morning shows are next on our docket, but we have a few.
I saw morning show season 1. I've never saw the second season. Ted Lasso, I saw season 1 too. I mean, if you're a soccer person, you got to watch Ted Lasso.
I mean, anybody. It's just such a
Yeah.
good show.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
common sense. But we'll move on. Favorite athlete, woman or man?
Oof. Favorite. You know what? I love Serena Williams. Everything
Okay.
that she stands for. Love her.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Oh, that's tough for me.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I just kind of went with that.
After reading Kobe Bryant's book,
yeah.
his book, and watching his documentary, and just the way that he attacked things, I'm gonna go with Kobe.
All right. How about favorite roommate? Because I know you guys asked that question. Or no, what is it? Favorite roommate or favorite person
Your favorite teammates.
Favorite teammate?
Teammate.
Yes. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Any teammate from my club group. We're very, very close. My Castle girls.
That's not really answering the question. My favorite teammate is probably from college. It's got to be Morgan Stearns. We got through everything together. I mean,
Didn't
I loved
you guys do
everyone
an
on the team.
interview together on YouTube or something?
Yeah, we did like
I saw some of that
when we played. Yeah, Virginia UNC. We did.
The
with the
College Cup
goalkeepers.
interview. Yeah.
We
I
did
saw
the
that.
goalkeepers. Yeah.
All right. All right. Favorite team to play against?
Houston Dash and Florida State.
Houston Dash and Florida State.
Yeah, I would say Florida State, and you're not going to know the other because it's in another country, but let's just go Florida State.
Why Houston Dash, by the way? Most people say Portland. I know on your show, everybody says freaking Portland.
I always like scoring goals against Jane Campbell.
Okay, fair enough. All right, favorite soccer team?
Big Liverpool fan. Always been a good Liverpool fan back in the day. I was a big Steven Gerrard fan.
We're not doing hot, but if my brother-in-law will kill me if I don't say Arsenal, so we'll go Arsenal.
At least no one said UNC in Virginia. I thought that there was going to be an answer with that, but okay.
No.
All right, best memory on the soccer field?
For me, it was coming back from my back-to-back ACLs. There's a really cool video out there that our Brittany Bartok captured. That's definitely my highlight of, not a highlight, but one of my favorite moments.
Inspirational moment.
I would say 2015 beating UCLA at UCLA in the Elite Eight. It's probably one of the greatest moments. Yeah.
Any pets? I know you have Lucy.
I do. She's snoring away right now.
You bring her on road trips? That's awesome.
No. We do not stay overnight. So we travel. We have about a healthy trip where we leave at 7:15 a.m. tomorrow and we get in at 1 a.m. So
wow, you're crazy for doing this tonight. You should be in freaking bed. You're crazy. Wow. I didn't know that. I thought you were already in Tennessee. Okay.
No.
All right. My bad. Okay.
You're good.
All right, Tina, go ahead. Do you have any pets?
No, I do not have any pets, and I would not have a pet unless I could take care of one. I know I can't. So that's kind of my position there. I just, pets need love and affection, and I do love animals ish. And just kidding. I do love animals. But Joe knows I just wouldn't be able, my schedule is so crazy. I just wouldn't be able to like take it for walks. And I live in New York City, you know, I don't think, I'll be honest. I respect everyone in the city. Don't get mad at me, but like, this is not where you have a pet in New York City. There's nowhere to go and run.
You could probably get away with the cat.
Oh, I'm not a cat person. I'm not a cat person. I'm a doggy person. I love Lucy. I love my sister's dogs, but you know, they got to play. They got to run. You got to give them space. It's just nothing here for them.
Oh, New York City. That's tough. Were you there during the pandemic?
I was in Chicago during the pandemic, which was quite a journey. Even quieter, probably. Yeah, it was just, well, I actually helped my sister. She literally gave birth during the midst of the like first 3 weeks of the pandemic. So I actually was in Raleigh watching her 3-year-old as she was like maneuvering that.
Jeez,
so yeah, it was
incredible.
crazy the beginning of the pandemic, but luckily school was remote then when I was doing my master's, so I could kind of move around. Then I went to Florida, and like Florida never had the pandemic apparently. So
well, I'll tell you this, like I'm in Rhode Island right now, but I was in Florida throughout the pandemic. Like I said, I just moved up here for this job at the college, but I was there the whole pandemic. Like you said, there was no pandemic. I mean, Disney and Universal shut down for like 3 months. And, you know, then everything else opened up, and there was a mixture. It's like half and half with the masks. But now, you know, since being in Rhode Island, I know you can speak to this as being in New York, because I'm sure it's somewhat the same way. No one wears a mask up here, period.
I mean, you literally can't live in New York City without being vaccinated, because it's like you can't go anywhere. They ask for the card and everything. So it's like. Right.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Over here, I think Rhode Island's like 82% fully vaccinated. It's like one of the highest in the country. Yeah. So anyways, let's get to these questions. So what's next for you in your career, Tina? I know you're doing the podcast, and I know you're doing the marketing. If you maybe even want to go into what you do, what marketing is, I know, you know, obviously it's different for everybody.
So I'm a marketing specialist for a financial technology company, and I basically run all marketing for one of our entities, which we're kind of a data business that helps banks and credit cards identify you all as customers, and we help brands identify you as customers. So we're very data driven. Next for me, I love my job. It's strenuous, but you know, it's teaching me a bunch. And part of what my passion is and my hopes for the future is to kind of take my knowledge and eventually get into a role where I'm specifically helping female athletes monetize themselves in a very authentic way. I think there's not enough, right? Like we talk about agents for men. Do you really need an agent as a woman? Probably not, because most of their contracts are not negotiated. I think you kind of need like a media coach in a way, like, or somebody that can help you make strategic partnerships. It doesn't necessarily have to be social media. Just so that these women don't need to, quote unquote, have side hustles, right? Like I want to see a space where female athletes can devote their career to their sport and not have to pick up side jobs to, you know, fulfill a dream. So that's kind of my hope for the future. But right now, just kind of grinding and trying to soak in as much in the marketing and digital marketing space as I can. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Last question. How do we get more men to watch women's sports and women's soccer in general?
I don't really, you know, I think for me, it's the one thing I love about soccer is it's not very different for men and women. Right? I agree. Sure. Like speed of play, maybe like pace. I mean, men are faster. Sure. but I'm sure, Joe watches a lot of EPL. I am sure there's plenty of games that you see and you're like, this is a poor game. And this NWSL game is 10 times better quality of play. So like any league, there's hits and misses, right? Some games are incredible, some are not. But I think that's just like a stigma. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I just watched the WNBA finals, and I do not watch tons and tons of WNBA because I don't watch a lot of basketball generally, but it was like, I was at the edge of my seat. Yeah. I'm like, this is the most amazing. I mean, they're hitting threes. They're like, I mean, it was amazing every single game. And I'm like, who wouldn't want to watch this? So I just think it's fighting the stigma and men being in positions where they're like, I don't really care what you think of me. I'm just watching a sport to watch a sport, whether it's a man or a woman or whatever. So that's kind of my take.
I think it's just, kind of a new generation of young men and young boys growing up in a space where females are taken seriously and females are highly respected. So I think, unfortunately, it may have to come with time where, the people that are, voices matter the most are people that have grown up with women as their bosses, or women in higher roles than them, or women that, can be better than them, and that's fine. And so I think it's with men being comfortable with that. I think that's when we'll see a turn.
I appreciate you guys for staying on here for so long.
Awesome.
And,
yep.
No worries.
Joe, I apologize. I know you have a long day tomorrow.
All good.
But thanks so much. And let's do this again down the road. What's next for the podcast?
For the podcast, well, we have a lot going on. So one, we're going to be launching merch soon, which is kind of a new news. We haven't really told anyone that, but I guess I'll just say it here. And then, just expanding, we'll probably take a little break after the finals just to give us, we've been kind of grinding through the whole season. I'm sure the players also need a break. And we pride ourselves on getting all the best players on and women in their stories. So we're going to continue to get players on, but we're really driving to, open and spread our wings in terms of contacts and bringing on people too that can speak to mental health, speak to nutrition, speak to areas that I think will serve the players also, not just the people listening to us who may be fans of the players. We want to serve both groups. So we'll work on that in the winter, just kind of figuring out who makes sense to bring on the pod in those spaces.
Guys, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thank you so much.